Hello and welcome back, everybody. Today we have a Vauxhall Corsa D 1.4 petrol engine. One of those. And customer states they have a no start situation. So we're going to verify that to start with. We're going to ignition on and turn the key. No crank. So no start, no crank. So first thing we're going to do is put the ignition on, get the diagnostic tool out and see what fault codes we've got. Scanner plugged in. The OBD socket is just down there. We are all Bluetooth, and the choice of diagnostic tool we're using today is the Thinkcar Max from ThinkTools. Really highly rated tool. If you're interested in purchasing one of these, if you're keen on it, the link is in the description below where you can purchase one. Right, so we're going to go in health reports. It didn't automatically find it because I think we've got a no comms issue, but I believe it's an A14XER engine. So we're going to let this scan through, and we're going to come back when it's gone through all the units because we can't be bothered to video the wait. Right, that's just about scanned through. The little timer there shows you how long it takes to scan every unit on the car. 47 seconds. And, well, we only have comms with the instrument cluster and the SRS. That's a little bit weird. I would have thought we would have BCM comms. Right, fault codes. Invalid data from BCM. Right, let's get back to that and see what's going on here. Right, so I'm going to double check with another scan tool. This time I'm using the Autel. Both are very good tools. Use both of them a lot in the shop, and this one seems to agree with the Thinkcar Max that we've got loads of communication issues. Roughly the same time to scan through. That's there. So this one has comms with the IPC. This one does have comms with the display, but we still have no comms with the engine ECU. We still have no comms with the ABS. We have no comms with the body control module. It's probably everything that we should have comms with. So I've checked all the fuses. Fuses appear to be okay. Don't know where I'm going with this one, but I'll look into this and get back to you. Real head scratcher. Yeah, a very odd state of affairs indeed, because although we've got no comms with the body control module, it doesn't pick up the VIN on an auto scan. We have life in the BCM because the remote controls work. The ignition lights come on as they should. Wipers work. Windows work. So there is life in the BCM, but we can't talk to it. I know sometimes these sockets can be a bit of a pain. You've really got to push them on hard, or else you only get partial comms. I'll check the connections in there and see if we can establish comms again. Just to recap, we've got multiple communication issues. It came in because the customer had found that he had no comms with his engine ECU, which is this one here, which I'm just in the middle of popping off for you. I think he's been doing some wiring tests because this cover is missing. The ECU itself, he'd already taken the back off, and there was a blown component there. It's like the CANBUS chip, I believe. And what we're going to do, we're going to sit that one aside. Just for giggles, I'm going to install this second-hand one, which we've already extracted the pin code, which we can program on the vehicle. The reason we're going to install it, we've bench tested the customer unit, and we've tried to fix it, and we can't get any comms with it, so we're giving up on that one. We're going to be installing one, which, the curse of the camera, we're going to be showing you how to do wiring tests on no comms ECUs, and it turns out we've got much more than just no comms with the engine ECU. So these little plugs, if you ever have to take them off, they have a little release lever there, and then the arm that goes on. So what you have to do, you have to put it on, pull this lever back, gently put it on. Sorry, push the lever down and then pull that lever back, and on it clips. And this one as well. Now, because I just heard the fuel system prime up, I'm pretty sure that that unit is powered up. I don't know if you heard that, but let's do a scan now and see what comms issues we've got now. No comms with the ECU. So let's do a full scan. Right, let's see what units we've got communicating. Engine, no comms, but it's powering up. Okay, so we have comms again with the instrument cluster, and comms with the airbag, but no comms with anything else. We're not going to spend too long doing wiring tests on the engine ECU because I heard the fuel pump prime up. Other things that, from memory, that can cause comms issues can be things like the ABS pump, which is over there, power steering units on Astras, but this is a Corsa, so it probably won't be that. Body control modules, but looks like I'm going to have to get my oscilloscope out and scratching my head. So, oh, here's the little cover that he's left off for the ECU. I'll put that back on when we're finished. Yeah, let's see what we can find. I'll report back when I find something interesting. Okay, so first thing I'm going to swap out is the body control module. I've got the glove box out of the car. Body control module is mounted behind here. I've just taken the multi-plugs off. It's held in with a Torx bolt up there. That's got to come out. So let's whip that screw out. Glove box is just held in with a few Torx screws, by the way. One there, one there, and one there. Then it just lifts out conveniently. So with the other screw under here, which needs to be taken out. Body control module then has these little tabs that needs to be released in the corners. And then, with a little bit of wriggling, it can come through the aperture. And we can then get to the back multi-plugs, like so. And the BCM is now out. So now with the BCM out, what we're going to do is, well, I could either bench test this one for comms, or if we've got one in the stores, we're going to just simply throw another BCM into the car and recheck with the scanner, see if we've got comms again, and then work out how we're going to program it. So we move on to looking at a schematic of the CANBUS system. This is a breakdown of the CAN and the VAN system on the car. First thing we're going to notice is the modules that we do have communication, which are the which are the audio systems, the instrument cluster, and the SRS airbags. Now these are not on the CAN bus, these are on what is called the VAN system, or the VAN lines, which is vehicle area network, which is a separate network to the CAN bus. If you can just see that, that is a VAN in the wiring diagram. I don't know if you can just see that, that is VAN, not CAN. The ones that we don't communicate with are all on the CAN lines, which is the engine control module here at the end of the CAN system, the ABS, the electronic power steering, the EPS, and obviously the body control module, which we have now established doesn't have comms. So first thing we would usually do is check continuity in the wiring between the OBD socket, which we're connected with, and the body control module. I'm not going to bore you with those tests because it's quicker for us to whip the body control module out and do a bench test. I'd strongly advise, if you're in a workshop, do continuity testing on these lines here. This is the CAN high, and down here you got the CAN low, but
we didn't test that because it's just quicker for us to put it on the bench. We'll show you that test in a moment. Once we have got a body control module that communicates with the diagnostic tool, we're hoping that we are then going to establish comms with all of these other units, and once we get down to the engine control module, then we're going to program the engine control module into the car. So let's crack on and get the body control module bench tested.
I now have the non-communicating E83 Corsa D ECU mounted on our test bed bench, connected up with the live grounds CAN high and CAN low. Now when we switch the power on, you'll see that it's drawing current of 800 milliamps, which is way too much. If I try and connect with it through the Opcom, you'll see that it tries to connect, but nothing happens. You see the yellow light flash, the little LED flash there, the yellow one. That's the tool trying to talk with the ECU, but as you can see, the ECU has no comms. We tested it earlier. We looked inside and we saw that this chip had completely blown. We've replaced that chip with a new one to see if we could at least get comms with it to get the data out to program the donor, and it's not having any of it. So what we're going to do, we're going to mount up a replacement unit. It's not the right one for the car. We'll get that later. This is just to show you what a working ECU should do on the test rig. So now we've got a known good E83 ECU mounted up on the test rig. There's the blown one. When we power this one up, what we'll see, you see there's got the red light. Now when I try and connect, the yellow LED will no longer be yellow, it's actually blue, and you can see that that's communicating straight away. We can see that we've got comms with it. We can read the VIN number, we can go in and we can read fault codes, we can go into live data. We can read everything with this ECU as if it was on the car. So this is now a known good one. So that's what happens when we connect with a known good one. It only draws 250 milliamps as well. The bad one has drawn about 800, I think, so 3 times as much, 4 times as much nearly. So we're going to power that down now. So what we have to do to make this one work on the car is to, or not this one, because this is the wrong one for the car, but when we get the right one for the car, we've got to extract the pin code from it. Then we've got to mount it to the car, reset it by the pin number and program it to the car. But that is if we can get comms with everything else, which is a whole different story. We have the suspect body control module connected up to a power supply unit, 12-volt power supply unit, and it goes through an OBD diagnostic tool. We're using Opcom, and we are going to see if we've got comms with it on the bench now. Just to let you know, I have had to re-record this section because it didn't come out. At the time of testing it the first time, I didn't have a donor unit. Since then, I have located some donor units, so I can show you a working one now. Unfortunately, I had to scrub the footage. So what we're going to do, we're going to turn the power supply unit on, and you will hear that this is some sort of life in this BCM because it does click when I turn it on. Not sure if you heard that. We're going to connect with the body control module, so we've got that highlighted, and we are going to choose that, and it's now going to try and communicate with it. You can see the yellow light is sending out the signal to the BCM, but it's not receiving anything back. It'll give up in a second, and it'll just say no comms with device, or it's just gonna, probably isn't going to give up. It's just going to keep trying and trying and trying to communicate. It's drawing 340 milliamps by the look of that, so it's drawing a fair bit of current. So it is alive, but it's not talking. So let's rig up a working one and see if that talks. I now have a donor unit, a known good donor unit plugged in. There's the original, different part number. I'm going to switch this one on now with the power supply. get a little double click, roughly the same amount of current getting drawn. But let's see what happens when I try and connect with a known good one. Straight away we have comms. As you can see, VIN numbers displayed there. We can read this one as if it was on the car, fault codes, live data, all sorts of stuff. So we know that this one here is a working unit. So now we have the challenge of getting the data from the original onto a donor unit. Now we would normally clone them. We have other softwares which would do the cloning from that one to that one through the multi-plug, but because this one is not communicating, we have to clone it a different way. The other way of doing it is by actually stripping the unit down completely, down to circuit board level, and reading the data directly off the circuit board, and then transferring it. I'm going to have a go at doing that, but as this is a re-record video, things didn't work exactly how I wanted them to, as you'll see. So we move on to the bench of no surrender. What we're going to do, we're going to extract the data out of this BCM with a bench programming tool, which is going to mean I've got to separate the two halves of these circuit boards, because they're a sandwich board, and we have a component to take off on the underside. That one there we have to take off. So we're going to pop this out. It's a dead board anyway, so we're not too worried about ruining it, because they don't go back together very well. And it's Saturday now, so hopefully Monday morning we're going to get another BCM, because we don't have one in stock. Transfer that data over without stripping the board. I'll show you how to do that. Then we're going to get it back on the car. We're going to check for comms issues, and we're going to go from there. But this is a challenge. But we're on the bench of no surrender, so we're not going to surrender. There's one up. Didn't quite come out perfectly, but we can put those back in when we need. There. Simple as that. Two pins were non-compliant, but I'll go back in. So let's get that component off. Get it wired up. See if we can read it. So we're all connected up, everything's live, and we're going to see if we can read the data to start with. Nope, I'm not getting any response, so we're on board. Right, so we are all connected on the board through the programming tool. I've double checked the connections, we've still got no comms with the processor. So I just checked for MCU info. We get nothing at all. So this BCM sadly is completely dead, so the only thing we can do now is get another BCM, reset it. Got to extract the pin code for the car because we don't have it. We'll get that from the instrument cluster, program it all in, program a new ECU, and then we're going to have to put new keys into the system as well, because the synchronization data is going to be lost. So that's about it for today. Let's see if we can get some bits and get this one done. Newsflash, we're getting somewhere. Still all connected. Now I've been gently heating the processor, and now if I click on info, you will see we now can read the processor. We have a heat related issue with the processor. So with the data, I'm now going to read the data, gently keeping the heat on. Right, so it's definitely heat related because I've just let the processor cool down, and now when I try to read it, we are getting nothing. So I'm going to cook the processor really warm and see if we can get a read on it. May have success. Having to keep the heat on, managing to get a read. Don't know if I'm going to get a verified read, but all we can do is try, keep the heat on, and keep praying. Right, let's see if we can verify this, and let's see what happens. But I need two hands, so I can read this again. Having to put loads and loads of heat on this. Don't normally have to do this, but it's working. And there we have two clean verified reads of the flash. Save that anyway. Right, okay, so the processor is nice and cool now. As you can see, I can put my finger on. It's only been about 5 minutes or so. Still connected up exactly the same on the board underneath. We go to read and it just does not connect at all. Nothing there, no comms. Now up here we have MCU info. If we click on that, it now doesn't even recognize which MCU is on there. The bench of no surrender has not surrendered. It's 1 yet again. So now what we've got to do is read the EEPROM, and then we've got to write that data into the donor unit when we get it. In the meantime, we'll be working out the pin number. I'll probably quickly show you how to do that in a minute. Right, let's get this put back together and get the EEPROM data. Right, I've just reassembled the board back together just to show that it can be done. We only really break apart these multi-layered boards or sandwich boards when we need to extract data, because they don't often go back together as well as this one has. Need some pretty special tools, and doesn't always work even with those. So I'm now just removing the EEPROM, and we're going to read that. There's the EEPROM off the board. We'll give it a quick clean up, drop it in the reader, and hopefully we'll get a successful read off this one. Okay, last little job of the day before I go home. EEPROM is in the EEPROM reader, and we'll give it a read and a verify as always. There's the EEPROM data, ready to pop into a donor unit when we get one, which that'll be later on because I'm going home. Okay everybody, here we go. I'm back. It's another day, and I've been out shopping. I've been getting body control modules. Now, here's what I believe to be the suspect body control module. I've managed to get a Corsa D one from a local breaker's yard. Unfortunately, it is a different part number. I've checked the circuit boards on these, and I've got a same circuit board. So I'm only putting this on to test and hopefully program it in if the test works. So we're going to start by plugging the two plugs in at the back here. Right, now it's in. Let's get these plugs in and we get comms. We're going to go ahead and program it. So let's see what we've got now. We've got the scanner plugged in. you're going to notice that the remote control does not work because it's not programmed for this car. But what we're going to do is a comms check. We're going to see if it picks up the body control module VIN number. I'm not sure what's going to happen. Still not picking up the VIN number. I believe it's because the VIN number is actually pulled out of the engine ECU. So looks like we still have some comms issues. We're going to go for a health report and we're going to see what we have comms with now. Still no comms with engine. Engine no comms. ABS still no comms. Power steering still no comms. But we have comms now with the BCM. So we have a partial success. We have another module which we can now communicate with. We always had comms with instrument cluster, but we now can go into the body control module. So we can now read the codes in the BCM. So we now have comms in the BCM. We're going to clear the codes out of it. We have the BCM telling us no comms with ECU, no comms with ABS, no comms with EPS, sorry, power steering. Right, so partial success. We're going to check on the wiring diagrams now for everything which is, I believe it's going to be CANBUS related, because the other modules we've got, which we always had comms with, which are the instrument cluster and the airbags, which funnily enough has no comms, no fault codes, my bad. They're on, not on the CAN bus, they're on the LIN bus, I believe. So we're going to pull a wiring diagram up and we're going to see what we can see. I'm going to clone, even though it's the wrong part number, I'm going to risk it and I'm going to clone the data from this one, which we got out on the bench, onto that one and see what we get. See if the keys start working again and, well, just seeing what we got basically. Right, so I've got my programming tool all set up. I'd normally do this on the comfort of my bench, but I'm going to try and do this by OBD. And it's connected. Right, so now I'm going to write in the data which we've got out of the original on the bench. Right, it takes a little bit of time to write in. Right, so that's the EEPROM and the flash. We're going to read the EEPROM to get the customer's PIN code, which is 1284. So I'm going to make a note of that for future reference. Disconnect from the programming tool. And everything comes back to life. Now, obviously the car is not going to start because it's not programmed to this engine ECU yet. But what I'm hoping is the remote will now work. Yep. Look at that. Remote is now working. So we have a working BCM in the car now. Hopefully now we're going to have less codes. So let's plug in the diagnostic tool in and see what that's saying for itself. As before, apart from the BCM, we still, with the Think tool, we only have comms with instrument cluster, airbags, as of before, and now the BCM. So let's go into the BCM. Here's the chassis number. That'll be correct now. Read and clear the fault codes. There's too many fault codes to worry about. We're going to get rid of them and see what we've got after clear. no comms with EPS, power steering, no comms with ABS, no comms with ECM. I've got to work out why they're not communicating. Now we've put on a separate ECM.
Right, moving back to the schematic of the CANBUS system, we're now happy that we have communication with the BCM now. The CANBUS goes through the BCM and then it goes to the EPS module. It comes out of the EPS module to the ABS, and it comes out of the ABS to the engine control module at the end of the line. Now, we've established comms with the BCM finally. That took some work. We still seem to have no comms with the EPS, so again, we could do wiring checks between the BCM and the EPS. Again, we're not going to bother with that because looking at the state of the chip in the engine control module, which is this picture here, this is the state of the CANBUS chip inside. As you can see, that's absolutely fried. Anything that has caused this sort of damage, the customer states that all he done was put the car up on the ramp and down again after doing some suspension work, which I tend to believe him, but how this has a blown hole in it. It looks like a power probe has been used, or a 24-volt booster pack has been used to start the car, but he assures me it hasn't. But seeing that damage and knowing that that damage is done to the ECM and the problems we've had with the BCM, I think we're going to have problems with the EPS and the ABS as well. So the next thing we're going to be doing is to first off bridge the CAN wires in the EPS there, the high and low, and rescan it to check for comms in the ABS. And if we still don't get comms with the ABS or the ECU, we're going to bridge the ABS CAN lines, and then hopefully we're going to finally get comms with the engine control module. We can use oscilloscopes, we can use testers, but we're just going to quickly bridge the wires over and show you how that test goes. Right, so as per the wiring diagram with the CAN bus, it shows the CAN high and CAN low, which are the blue wires and the white wires that go into the power steering module. We're going to bypass these now. So we've got the two CAN highs connected with just these jumper wires, which I'm using. You can use a paper clip or anything else, it's just I had these at hand. So they are now bridging the CAN high to the CAN high, the CAN low to the CAN low, which then feeds through the wiring loom to the ABS pump, where we've got the CAN high into the ABS pump and the CAN high out of the ABS pump. We've got those bridged as well with some more cables which I had at hand. CAN low is looped as well, and we've now got the ECU connected as it would. So we've bypassed the ABS pump and the power steering module because I think it's had a complete CANBUS meltdown. And it's time to scan it again and see what we've got. So let's go for a health report. It's 14XCR or 12XCR, doesn't matter, they're the same engine types. And bingo, look at that, we have comms with the engine now. So, looks like we can finally get this engine control module programmed in with bypassing the power steering and the ABS. I did wire this up off camera and I did check in case you were wondering, and I initially bypassed just the power steering module and it did not bring anything back to life. So I still couldn't communicate with the ABS. I've had to bypass the ABS and the power steering to be able to talk to the engine ECU. So it looks like whatever caused the hole to appear, the burnt hole in the engine ECU chip, which is for the CAN bus, and whatever caused the body control module to not communicate, has also blown the power steering and the ABS. So this is going to need, after we've done the engine ECU and got that running, it's going to need an ABS pump on it and a power steering module. This one ain't going to be cheap for the guy. Right, so
now we can go into the engine ECU. We can make sure we've got comms with it. Remember, this is not programmed to this vehicle, so the car is not going to start. We're going to read the fault codes. Incorrect immobilizer key. Yeah, there's lost comms. There's going to be loads of codes in there. So let's clear these codes and see what we're left with. Says no fault codes, but there is going to be fault codes because I believe the ECU, I believe it's one we've reset already. Body control module now, we're going to enter that. We still have a code in there for no comms with engine control module, but that's probably because it's an old code and now we've got comms with it. That should hopefully clear. Yeah, we've now only got no comms with ABS and EPS, power steering. That's because we've got them bypassed, obviously. But we now have comms with engine ECU, so we can go ahead and we can program our engine ECU, which was all this video was meant to be about, how to check for wiring on an engine ECU and how to make sure that you make the right decision. Unfortunately, with the very first scan, we could see that wasn't the case here. Multiple CANBUS issues. So I'm going to get that one programmed in and see if we can get this running tonight. Right, finally getting somewhere. Nearing the end stages now. I've put an ECU on, which we have reset already. I'm going to program it to the body control module, or at least I'm going to try to program it to the BCM. So we're going to log into the immobilizer and we're going to see if we can program this ECU to it. Says successfully programmed. So it looks like we have programmed finally the ECU, even though it's a 1.4 XCR ECU and we're on a 1.2 XCR Corsa. Let's see what happens. Right, it really is the moment of truth time. I'm going to turn the key. We're going to see what happens. Foot is on the clutch. Does it crank? Does it start? Oh, we have a runner. So we will fine-tune this one. We will find the exact part number, body control module, because it's one that we've just put on and we've flashed it to the car just to prove a point that the car was not communicating. We will also get the correct part number engine control module, just to show you what we've got there. We've still got the link wires in the power steering module. That's the power steering module. I think the customer, who is a garage, is going to change that themselves. Now we've got it running. And this is the bypass wires I had to put in the ABS pump just to manage to get comms finally with this engine ECU, which like I say is actually a 1.4 engine ECU, but we're gonna, where are we going? We're gonna flash that properly and get this together another day. But for tonight, this is day 3 on this car, not full days, but third day I've been working on it. We're going to write that one down as a success. We have no power steering, so it's really hard. We're still not showing any fuel out the fuel gauge for some reason, but maybe it's completely empty. But yeah, we've got a lot more work to do on it still. Thanks ever so much for watching this far. Hope you found it interesting. I know it's a long one. Hopefully the next one is going to be a lot easier and it's just going to be a basic wiring test, but I'll get back to you on that one and probably maybe do another little video on this and include it at the end with it all finally finished. But thanks for watching. Click the like button, subscribe, share it, do what you like with it, leave a comment if you like, and thanks for watching.